But I will say, in terms of what you mentioned earlier, the transits, and they're real and they're on time. Oh, yes, indeed.
Oh, that was
Especially,
phenomenal.
I just got through one and the timing was impeccable.
Yeah, we should explain that one because that's really phenomenal, even to me, because they're generally not that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that was literally so I had it was Jupiter squared Jupiter, I, I think,
Doesn't
right?
matter
It
what
doesn't
which
matter.
it was.
But it was a little bit different than normal. It was a three part, but the second and the third part were a 3 day span. There was 3 days in between. Third, second, third, fourth, 2 day, third, fourth, fifth.
Third to the fifth.
Um,
But let me
and
we look at the transit and then wait, come back to this.
yeah, yeah,
So most of them are three parts. Sometimes they're one, but this is a normal three-part one. And this is where the transiting planet out there in the real world lines up exactly with a planet in his chart. Okay. And so if you get a three-part one, it makes its first initial contact. It goes a little further and then it gives the same illusion of backing up. Like if you're sitting on a bus or a train and the one next to you moves forward, you wonder why you're going backwards. It's just an illusion, but it happens. So, and it happens for the people who are recording where all the planets are from the viewpoint of the Earth, and we get the same illusion. So he had had the first contact where this moving real world planet came and lined up with his planet in his chart, stationary. Then it probably went a little further forward, probably a lot further forward in this case, because three-part ones are normally 9 months. So it went forward and then it backed up. It hit its second point, and then it only backed up for another day or so and went forward again. So the first one is the issue shows up. The second one is now you've had the time between number one and number two to figure out how whatever it is that's come into your world is you're going to process it, or you're going to what your strategy is going to be. And so the bottom line is then you've developed your strategy in the first block between one and two, and between two and three, you implement. Okay. So that lays this transit down. So you get some gist way back when on the first contact, right?
back in July. Yeah,
Okay. Well, July is almost 9 months, right?
right.
To now. Okay.
Yep.
All right. So he gets the first inkling, but it doesn't appear to have much pressure, or you got time to figure out what you're going to do, or
Well, yeah. So the specific situation, and just so you know, Kim, I'm a federal employee for the U.S. government. So if you've been following the news over there in England and they're talking about what's going on over here, you might have heard some inklings about cutting back federal workforce
Oh yeah.
and uh, um, and that type of stuff. So don't know if I'm impacted yet, but the writing began on the wall back during that time in July, like as the run up to the election was occurring and Trump was talking about what his intent was. It was pretty clear that if he won, there was going to be a trim back of the federal workforce and a deep dive into all the agencies to see where we can cut back waste. Um, and so obviously that happened. Um, but then right before my second part, which was February 3rd, um, there was the memo that came out from the administration that
and this,
basically, go ahead,
let me,
Carla.
so this then would be the framework where he has to whatever he devised for a strategy, he has to implement between date two and three.
Right,
Okay.
right. So the right. So got the notification. Every federal employee had the option to um, take what they're calling a deferred resignation. So you can resign from your federal position, take 8 months to pay, basically pay you for to do nothing for 8 months so you can figure out your life from there on. Um, And then a couple days later, they give out the, oh, well, we're going to add on top of this. If you're eligible for early retirement, you can go ahead and take the deferment and you can retire, which I'm
Mm.
eligible for both. So I had this 3 day period and I called Carla. I'm like, okay, here's what's up. And we just kind of chuckled about it because it's like, oh, wow. So you've got no time to decide this because the administration gave you till the 6th of February, right? Which fell right on the final date. So, um, I kind of had to pour through and make this decision. But like Carla said, I I didn't really realize that I was thinking about it from the lead up into the second date. But I think the wheels were in motion internally as in terms of what I was going to do and kind of where my my will lied there. So it made the decision a bit easier for me when it came time to do that and implement. But anyway, the timing was impeccable because it was make a decision by February 6th. My transit ended on the 5th. So
And it started on the 3rd,
the second part was the third. Yeah.
two
Yeah.
days.
Yeah.
I mean, that is so phenomenal in regard to the way transits work because it was absolutely right on time. I've never ever seen another transit that's been like 2 days between the second and the third date. So it, and then of course, that's a phenomenal experience that
Yeah.
the United States government is having and and deal with your Office of Budget and
Right.
Management.
I was going to say, well, yeah, that some of the verbiage in that specific transit is about basically tight money issues, right? Whether that's personal or in my job. Um, I mean, it could be a little bit of both, kind of yet to be determined because it indicates that you won't really feel that until after the transit concludes. So, however, this is obviously a budget crunch in the US going on. And I do work in the budget field. I'm a budget manager for a large bureau in the government. Um, and it's interesting because our current temporary appropriations runs out middle of March. So, there's going to be a lot of tightening and squeezing between now and then to kind of figure out what the long view is. So I can kind of anticipate that, well, I'm already really busy now, but I'm going to get a lot more busy because there's going to be fewer people to do the work. Um, but there's going to be a lot of budget tightening, and I'm going to have to probably have a lot of not so fun conversations with people where I'm going to have to pull some funding away. So,
Yeah, but the basically the phenomenal, um, yeah, it's just
the
so.
timing,
I
yeah,
mean, timing, the fact that you would only have 2 days to between stage 2 and stage 3 to implement is exactly what they said. You decide in a couple of days what you want to do. Bang, that's it. So, um, yeah, it's just the awareness. And actually, because I haven't sent this to you, Kim, yet, but you will find that some of the transits that you have that are generational, for your age group are very indicative of exactly what's going on. And it's not that it's going to happen or feel the impact um, on later generational groups, your generation. And it wasn't mine because I am substantially older than you are. And so we're not going to get the hit that you will get in terms of the impact of and feeling that there's a certain change or something like that, because it would be expected that it would affect us too, but it's not because we're of a different generation. And but it's yours that will feel a certain given impacts that everybody in your generation will feel. But they don't necessarily affect Patricia's either. It's your block. So it's interesting how accurate it really is. Yeah.
I had a feeling that something was going on because I'm not up to speed with, like transits now, to be honest, but looking at it, what's going on in this country in that, and where they're directing the subjects, I gathered something was going on. Yeah.
I'll send that to you pretty
Yeah.
soon.
So I've mentally prepared myself in a way.
Yeah, good.
Thank you.
Okay, guys, anything more?
As a collective, as far as the transits go, is there, you say generationally you would be different, like Kim and I, but like collectively we're going through these changes in the world, right? So to an extent we're going to feel it together,
But not the same way. Yeah, because first of all, generationally is the 3 outer planets. And so it depends what sign they're in. And as a generation, and then the transits impact that set of signs, where I'm in a different generationally one. I mean, I'm living the same time frame, but I don't have the same attitudes. My generation has different attitudes, and the impact isn't hitting that attitude, but it's hitting this particular one, is what I'm saying. And probably not, well, I've done your transit, so it's not showing up the same way as it is for Kim, because she's in a generation between us. And those generational ones are the Neptune, the Uranus, and the Pluto. So they're the Neptune is our fairy tales, are what we felt were our best case scenarios, or our idealism, however you want to put it. Uranus is how do we adapt to change, and during that, and what is our expectation for change. And Pluto is transformations. And so it doesn't, these different, and then you'll get the other planets coming through, and they'll trigger them differently for each of those sets of generations, is kind of what I'm saying. So you just see the world differently. You have different expectations in those generational scopes. That's why there was way back when, there was a guy who said, tell me what your fairy tales are, and I'll explain the generation to you. And Walt Disney used to be a good indicator of that. For example, when I was born, Bambi came out. And that was really the end of hunting. For example, man is in the forest, he's a danger, etc., etc. It changed a generation of and our interaction with animals that we hadn't had prior to that, etc., etc. Uranus is where we get our scientific innovations and changes that expand us mentally and move us farther up into the mental realms. And so that one comes along and it triggers different generations. Pluto, great transformations, but it moves much slower normally. It's takes 20 years to go through a sign. For the most part, there's some exceptions. It's got a elliptic orb, so goes through signs very quickly on the short end and goes through signs and very lengthy on the long sides. But yeah, that's sex, drugs, rock and roll, and government, and all of that stuff, and money, government money, and all of those various other things affect the generation. And then the planet that affects it Does it square it? Does it just sextile it, which means it's okay? Squares, whoop, that's a challenge to that particular generation, and so on and so forth. So, and interestingly enough, it is definitely making a certain group generationally are going to have heavier impacts than other groups. Yeah, if that answers that question.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah. Just because you have different attitudes.
It is. It's the approach to it. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the transit's coming along and it's challenging that and saying, well, you can't ride that train anymore. You're going to have to adjust to something else, kind of thing. And for the other one, it does not necessarily do that at all. It might be, hey, well, it's finally time for that to happen or something.
But do you see a pattern as for the collective? Like the beginning of this year might be different from the energies towards the second semester?
No, what I'm saying is the generation is the collective, but they're generations that one spans 7 years, one spans 12, 13 years, and the other is anywhere from 12 to 20 years. And so that's what I'm talking about when I say the collectives. So it isn't like month to month or something like that that I'm talking about in terms of the transits for individuals. Yeah.
Or you mean the whole of humanity there, Patricia?
Yeah,
Mm,
Yeah,
thinking
no,
like of Earth.
mm.
there is a shift for the globe and the planet, but that's not I don't think we can define it right now on a month-to-month basis or anything like that. But there is a global transition for the planet, but it's going to take some time. Yeah.
On a sensitive note, slightly cryptic, it's envisaged that in less than 5 years' time, we'll be the minority here.
Oh, are you talking about it in terms of your cultures in your country?
Color.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see what happens.
Mm. At the moment, I'm getting this urge to push to do a big clear out. So I'm just doing that at the moment. So yeah, I'm just following the flow on it.
Well, you'll be following your transits here pretty soon.
Yeah.
And you already do it, but you'll have consciousness about them. is you know, you'll be more aware of wherever you, and I don't know for everybody else, having them generally brings a certain degree of stability in the life. What would you say? Even when things are going rough, you know then they're rough.
Mm.
But you know the time frame and you know when they're going to end being rough.
That
So you
definitely
can just
helps
prepare around it. Yeah.
Yeah.
to have an expiration date, a due date for it to end. It's
And they do.
comforting.
You know how long you're going to be anxious.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, or my granddaughter had one that things were breaking. I mean, the car was in the garage for 5 weeks and something else would break. But she's had transits for probably because she had me for grandma because I don't do children usually, but with her, I would give her her transits. And so she had texted me, Grandma, I've run out of transits. You got to give me some more. And then she started talking about, she said, I was so glad when waiting for November to come, because the transit where things were breaking was going to end in November. And she knows, because she's had enough history with them, that it'll end. It really will. So this is where it's just a nice buffer, because the transit comes and something starts. Oh, well, that's what that transit's about. Okay. And then there may be one or two more things, but you know that that it's going to end, and when it ends, it's going to be done. If you don't have that, it's like, my God, another thing. Will this never end? Is this going to go on the rest of my life? Kind of attitude. And then you have a certain degree of anxiety that gets buffered by the transit, knowing the knowledge of it, because you know it's going to end. So I just have to put up with this a little bit longer. Okay, I can do that. Kind of thing.
I remember you saying something like that with Donnie on one of the videos, and last about this time last year, I went through that because my car hit one of the many potholes that we have here, put that out of action. I was literally on my knees, and then the water, the taps got stuck, and I tried to find the stopcock, to turn the mains off. That broke. I was mopping it all up and tipping it down the toilets, and that broke, so I thought, okay, do it, Carla.
Yeah, no.
So yeah, I thought it won't last. And now at the moment, touch wood, it seems to have worked out. Yeah. So I'm making the most of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, so I do understand that.
Anything more, Donnie?
Well, the interesting part about that, I mean, we could probably just keep talking all day every time, but I was reading about Neptune and how it's related to the astral plane, but not just Neptune related to the astral plane, it's related to the devas of the water. And we're always talking about how when we have a Neptune transit, then things kind of can go wrong with things with water. And I've had everything with water that could, other than next to drowning, you know. I mean, I had everything that could happen with water. Pipes bursted multiple times, pools overflowing.
Are you saying you've had Neptune transits corresponding, or what?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I've had them how long now? Since we started. I've had a Neptune transit, I think, going on almost the entire time. And they continue. So no, it's interesting. And then what Uranus is electrical stuff. And so I've had a lot electrical issues. And it all does correlate to whatever transits you have. That's why when you said that, Kim, I was wondering if that pothole had water in it when you hit it.
Yeah, it must have. Well, actually, it had rained in that, so it was flooded. So you couldn't even see it. So it just looked like a normal road until you went in it, So yeah,
it's funny.
Never thought about that.
No, but you will from now on.
I will do.
Yeah, if you keep having your transits done every year, you will start thinking about things like that. You'll be aware of your environment. Yeah.